Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. You are listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. Let's get to it.
Anthony for three. Bang! That one goes down, and the game is tied.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
The Yankees are champions of baseball.
Shaking and baking right here on the neophyte.
U.S. trying to close the show. She was doing a great job of feeding. That is over.
Don't you regret not coming to the Knicks? Don't you regret not coming to the Knicks?
Game over. World Series over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
Okay. All right. Welcome to the show. Welcome to episode 653 of BD4. I'm your host, RJ Carbone, and you're listening to BD4. Welcome to the podcast. We are doing audio only in this episode. I didn't have time to put together, to set everything up and make this a video over on YouTube. Because today was opening day in the Bronx, or I guess in Houston. And, oh man, that was fun. We're going to talk Yankees Sunday night when that episode comes out on the Houston Yankees series. But that's why this episode is going to be audio only. I just didn't have the time to set everything up with the software and my notes. So it's going to be a shorter episode too, although I say that every time and we end up going the full 40 plus. But listen, the Knicks played last night. They played the Toronto Raptors, and the Raptors' entire rotation was out. They had no Quickly, they had no RJ, they had no Scotty Barnes, and a bunch of other guys, Chris Boucher, Carton, Jacob, I forget his last name, was out. Poeltl? I don't know, fucking Poeltl? I don't know how to fucking pronounce his name. But their rotation was out. And the Knicks, while, you know, they were without the almighty Alec Burks and OG and Randle are still out, and I'm expecting them to miss the rest of the regular season. Maybe make it by the first round. That'd be good. I'll talk more about the OG thing later. They got back Mitchell Robinson last night. The Knicks got back Mitch, and my gosh, did it feel good. And we'll talk more specifically on Mitch a little later in the episode. But the Knicks win this game 145-101. They start out 6 for 6. You know, the first quarter, Deuce McBride is red hot. Mitchell Robinson first checks in at about the 5-minute and change mark. And the Knicks finished the first quarter 45 points to 33. Second quarter, it's Jalen Brunson's time to get hot. Late in the second, Precious Achiuwa gives you some good minutes, very good minutes. And the Knicks are up 80-59 at halftime. In the third quarter, you had some really good shooting moments. Deuce McBride and Brunson go back-to-back with threes. Josh Hart gets a couple of baskets late in the period. And the Knicks are up 31 points entering the fourth quarter. So by then, it was all garbage time, and you didn't really need to pay attention to it. 145-101. Yes, that's a regulation score for your New York Knickerbockers, and they win. Deuce McBride leads the way with 29 points. Brunson, another quiet 26. For the Raptors, Grady Dick, 23 points, and Gary Trent with 18 points. But listen, this offense just continues to do the damn thing. You know, and it's going to be fine. And it's specifically, I am more impressed night after night with the way that Brunson and iHart continue to work their chemistry and just work magic together. Them two together really, really helped this offense. 145 points last night, dude. Like, that's the most points in a regulation Knicks game since 1980 for them. It's the most points they scored in a half this season when they had 80 in the first half. They made the second most threes that they've ever made with 22. Overall, they shot 59% from the field, 50% from three, 66% from two, 81% at the stripe. They had 37 assists, which equated to a 66% assist rate. They were just doing everything. They were getting to their spots every time down, getting to any spot on the floor that they wanted. They were able to create advantages offensively very easily. And I think you have to thank the Toronto Raptors for having no clue how to cover this Knicks team. They were blitzing pick and roll early. They went to a drop a little later. When the Raptors went to a drop, Brunson, who just kills drop coverages, as soon as he would get past the point of attack defender, he'd get into the mid-range and just go to that floater. And that's fine with me. You want to drop on Jalen? That's fine. As soon as he gets past the point of attack, he's a bucket. And then when they went to a blitz, Brunson continues to really, really show improved patience off the blitz. He's improving as a pocket passer, and you're seeing, again, we talk about him and Isaiah Hartenstein together. You got iHart coming up to the screen, and when they blitz on that screen, that leaves the Knicks in a 4-on-3 on the roll. So I'll talk about creating advantages. Brunson's going to hit the outlet, iHart on the roll, and iHart's gravity on the roll is going to open up the corners, and then he's hitting the corners once the defense collapses. And you saw that a number of times last night with Deuce McBride getting open threes in the first quarter where Isaiah Hartenstein rolls, the defense collapses, or the weak side helper has to tag on the roll, and then there's your open shot. And then we saw the benefits of keeping a shooter in the corners versus keeping Josh Hart in the corners. And we'll talk about the downsides to that in a second. But there was a good example in the middle of the first quarter. iHart comes up, he slips the screen, Brunson hits iHart in the short roll, and then Trent Jr. is on the weak side corner guarding up on Dante DiVincenzo, so he's late in rotation at the basket. So if Josh Hart or if a non-threat was on the weak side corner there as opposed to a DiVincenzo, Gary Trent Jr. is being used as the weak side low man in that spot, and he's not having to rotate all the way down. So that's the benefit of having, that's why Tom Thibodeau likes to put his shooters in the corners, because you take help off the roll. And you saw some benefits of that last night. And then just the two-man game between the two of them. Brunson and Hart, or in iHart, even Hart coming into the action in Chicago actions, right? The Knicks have been running a lot of that Chicago gut lately. And last night with the Raptors blitzing Brunson actions at times, the Knicks went to that Chicago offense. In the first quarter, Brunson comes off a Josh Hart pin down, receives the iHart handoff, and iHart's left open off the blitz, so Brunson hits iHart middle, and iHart knocks down the floater. They ran the same thing in the third quarter with the same three players. This time, Kelly Olynyk was kind of caught in between, so Brunson just pulled up baseline. And it's just, it's you're seeing such a synergy, right? When everybody has chemistry together, it creates this synergy where they're just so dominant together. And you just got to be thankful for a guy like Jalen Brunson, who is known as a bucket, but he's made such excellent strides as a ball handler in pick and roll this season outside of just scoring. And again, with iHart and his excellent movement, his screening, slipping the screen, it's such a beauty to watch them two work together. The passing off of the blitz from Brunson. Brunson's working empty side pick and roll now with Precious. Like, it's such a diversified offense because of the skill sets that these guys have. And that's why, like, listen, there's question about this offense. Is it going to change for the worse when guys get healthy? You know, the good thing is, again, iHart's going to continue to start, so there's a big difference in your offensive production with iHart at starting center as opposed to Mitch. But, you know, there's always, like, going to be, like, the negative tone of in Knicks fans, in Knicks universe. There's always, like, the yeah, but, and I guess the latest yeah, but is, like, people are worrying if Randle's going to change the offense for the worse. Because he's obviously a very polarizing player here. And right now, as the Knicks continue to win games, 9 out of 11, right, their offense looks fantastic. And their offense without Julius Randle, it's become a motion offense. There's a lot more ball movement. I'm just based off the eye test. I don't have the metrics in front of me, but it seems like the ball is moving. It's not sticking off of ball movement. There's a lot of off-ball activity. The speed of the game is a lot quicker in the half court. The pacing's quicker. The spacing is better. There's a lot of weak side screening, pin downs, staggers, and guys are just doing things. There's a lot of activity. At the same time, it looks so great. We have to remember the Knicks have gotten some breaks in the schedule of late, right? These last 3 games have been some really easy, let's be honest, free victories. And at the end of the day, when Randle was here and healthy, I mean, we all glorify the quote unquote January Knicks. Their offense in January when Randle was here was elite. It was still very good. It was 6th in the NBA in the month of January. So I'm not just going to assume Randle comes back and sure, there's going to be an adjustment period maybe, but it's going to be a good offense. You're going to get great offense. You're getting back a 25-10 guy. Randle's going to come in here and his gravity creates offense because he's able to draw 2 to the post, ISO, kick, swing. Will it be a slower offense? You know, yeah, late clock possessions. It's going to be, you're going to see some delay offense, but it's going to produce. And with OG coming back, he's going to space out in the corners. He's going to make his 45 cuts to create movement and spacing that way. And, you know, you have Mitch back. And yes, there are spacing concerns with Mitchell Robinson, obviously. But at the same time, Mitchell Robinson's got gravity. His roll gravity off the screen and roll. I think it's very important for the Knicks to utilize Mitchell Robinson on the roll more. You know, it's very important that they go to that more. And it's important for Mitch to put the ball on the floor more, which he showed that last night. He'll flash that every once in a while where he's putting the ball on the floor. And I think if the Knicks are to hit Mitch on the roll, I would like for him to put the ball on the floor and create drive and kick opportunities when the help comes off the corners to the roll. That's going to open up your corner shooters, your wing shooters, OG, Dante, Deuce, Boyan. You know? So it's going to come down to that too. Can Brunson and Mitchell Robinson nail that? Because their chemistry together isn't great. We've known this. Brunson's not exactly comfortable by throwing lob passes at that height. He prefers to hit the pocket. But yeah, like the thing with Randle when he's back and Hart's on the floor and maybe Mitch is on the floor, like that's where you talk about the spacing concerns. And I think the best way the Knicks can counter that is to adjust the way you align your sets. I don't love sandwiching Brunson in between Hart and Randle because having them one pass over from the action isn't the smartest idea. Versus putting Hart weak side. I prefer Hart on the corner versus having him one pass away. You know, if you put Dante and Deuce above the break next to Brunson actions. Because if Josh Hart's one pass over, it gets tough. We've talked about this plenty because the defense just helps onto Brunson, especially in late clock situations. So I think if you're in that scenario where you align Hart next to him, maybe try using Josh Hart as the screener in the action to get the switch, or you can hit Josh Hart when he rolls into space. But when Hart's in the corners, Brunson has more space. Now, does the defense help off and pack the paint and tag the roll? Sure. But at least this way, Brunson, who is the primary of your offense, he's able to get 2 feet into the paint, into the mid-range area this way and work his magic. And I think that's the way they should run their offense. It should be focused on getting Brunson the best looks as possible. And I think the way you can get Brunson the best looks is by positioning Hart on the weak side corner. Give Brunson the space to operate and to get 2 feet into the paint. And that's how you do it. I want to talk a little more about how things will look offensively, especially when guys get healthy. We'll do that as soon as we return from our first break here on BD4, episode 653. Stay with us.
Hey there, thanks for listening in so far. If you enjoy this episode, please give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much. You can follow us on social media as well. On Instagram, we're at BD4Pod and at Rob J. Carbone. On X, we're at BD4Pod and at RJCBD4. And on Facebook, we're BD4.
Now, we talk a lot about like the playoff rotation, the rotation when the Knicks are healthy. So, like, if you're annoyed with this conversation, that I keep bringing it up, you can always skip ahead of the timestamps. But, like, I am curious to see what the bench rotation looks like, how it plays when the Knicks are healthy. Because the strength of it is obviously going to be defense, rebounding, size, crashing the offensive glass, using their strength. That's going to be their pro. One of the question marks remains offense. That's been their bench weak point all year. Spacing, passing, ball handling. Can Deuce McBride do enough point guard things in those non-Brunson minutes? How does this new and improved Deuce McBride look with Julius Randle sharing the floor with him? You know, is it going to be an 8-man rotation? Is it going to be a 9-man rotation? Is it going to be more of an 8.5-man rotation where that 9th man only gets so many minutes? It comes down to whoever is being staggered with the second unit. If it's an 8-man, maybe Isaiah Hartenstein's the guy you stagger. Maybe he's one of the guys. Now that takes away minutes between him and the starters and Brunson, which is not ideal because that's super efficient offense for you. But he would help a ton with that second unit, especially if you bring Dante DiVincenzo with him to play with the bench. You could go Deuce McBride, DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, Bojan Bogdanovic, or Precious Achiuwa, and then Isaiah Hartenstein. You can stagger Mitch if Precious is in there with Hart, right? Maybe you go Randle and Dante, right? Dante, will give you a capable ball handler. He can run some pick and roll on the empty side, and you put Randle on the post. Randle's obviously a good pick and roll player with Mitch. We've seen them work that little 4 or 5 pick and roll together more and more this year. They have a good chemistry. So maybe you go Deuce, Dante, Hart, Randle, Mitch as a hybrid bench first unit. Or maybe you go Deuce, Dante, Bojan, Randle and Mitch if you want more offense and more spacing. You stagger Hart with that first unit. Do you stagger OG with someone to come off the bench? Dante and OG, that might be the best way to go because you have a ball handler and then you got your two-way guy. You got your two-way wing along with Dante. But maybe you don't need Dante because, in those non-Brunson minutes recently, Josh Hart has been the one initiating actions a lot of the time. I still prefer a more traditional guard, but yeah, it's an interesting question. Again, I think it's going to be an 8-man. I think at most it's going to be 8.5. But there's going to be a lot of staggering. I'm hoping Tibbs pushes the right buttons and pulls the right plugs, because it has potential, if healthy, to do some very good things. So we'll see, man. And yeah, you got some concerns. Speaking of if healthy, because there was a photo last night that talk about like a party shitter. Right after the game, some Knicks fan, somebody posted a photo of OG Anunoby and his elbow. Oh my gosh. I don't know if it's the angle. I don't know if it's me or it looks like super swollen. And then it didn't help that the same doctor who gave kind of a diagnosis on Twitter to the Randle injury, and he's been doing some OG stuff, quote tweets it, and he goes, yeesh. You don't want a doctor saying yeesh. So he goes, yeesh, that's a lot of swelling. And yeah, it's kind of scary. It's kind of scaring me. I just keep thinking of those yells when he first came back. He was screaming in pain a number of times throughout the first half. I don't know, man. Like it's again, I'll tell you what, that OKC game on Sunday is going to be such a big teller. If OG Anunoby is back by that OKC game, we're cool. Then it's like, all right, they were probably just being precautious because the Knicks had 4 gimmies in a row. But if Sunday night comes and he's not playing against a very good OKC game, that's a big teller. That might tell you that, all right, this injury might be a little more serious than we think. At the end of the day, I have a bad feeling it is. I have a feeling that OG and Randle are going to be held out until the playoffs, which is not great, especially with Randle because it's been such a long layoff. You don't want him going right into the fire. Honestly, I think Randle's going to miss some playoff games too. I don't know that he's going to be back right away. So, OG, it's at least he came back, played a few games. It's not as serious of an injury. He didn't dislocate anything. It's just elbow swelling. But it's bothering him. And you're just hoping that they didn't rush him back and he re-injured it. Because that's what that would mean if he's not out there on Sunday to me. Let's transition to some more positive things. We'll go to Deuce McBride in a second when we return from our second break here on BD4. Stay with us, episode 653.
If you're interested in our website, just go to www.bd4blog.com. You can subscribe to our blog on there right on the front page. Just like on the podcast, we cover Yankees, Knicks, and MMA. Also on our website are the links to the different platforms for the podcast. Thanks so much.
Welcome back to the show, episode 653 of the podcast. Game balls. Deuce McBride from the starting unit. 29 points, 7 assists, 9 for 14 from 3. He was a plus 40 in 40 minutes. That's his 16th game ball. He's been excellent. Excellent. The defensive awareness, helping, recovering, switching, keeping his back to the baseline so he's able to see the play, strong side to weak side to strong side. Like, that's how he picked up that block that he had last night. It's just, and the offensive stuff obviously has been awesome. Continuing to make strides at point guard. You can see he's getting a little more comfortable with the ball in his hands the more he's handling it. He threw a lob pass last night. I don't know if anybody caught that. He threw a lob pass last night. I think it was to Mitch. So keep an eye on that. He's pulling up off the screen more, getting a little quicker, getting the Knicks into their offense, initiating pick and roll, some empty side stuff. Like, he's better and better. The playoffs are going to tell. When things slow down and he's facing better defenses, that's the real determining factor. But, it's interesting. With Burks injured right now, I'm wondering if this is like Tibbs' chance to send him into Kembaland without sending him into Kembaland on an obvious note, right? I'm like, this helps him disguise benching Burks with the injury thing. Maybe Tibbs is like, listen, just take the rest of the year. This is the perfect opportunity, if one, to officially cut Burks out of the rotation. Because I am very good with that, and I'm sure every other Knicks fan is. The confidence has been unbelievable with Deuce. This was never a guy that you'd imagine would be taking 14 threes in a game just a couple months ago. Now he is. And he knocked down 9. He was going for Dante's record last night. He had 6 by the end of the first quarter. His shot looks excellent. He's got a high release point, so he's beating closeouts very effectively. Catch and shoot, pull-ups in traffic. He's been awesome. He's been a game changer. And I don't know if anybody heard J.J. Redick's segment on his show where he was talking for a few minutes about Deuce McBride. Some very good things to say. So if you haven't checked that out, check that out on JJ's podcast. Going to the bench, I'll give it to Precious Achiuwa. I thought Precious was good. 19 points, 12 rebounds. A lot of that was in garbage time, but he was good. 3 assists, knocked down a 3, couple steals, 27 minutes played. 10 game balls. And he was here. He's not been here long. He got here with OG. And he's already got 10 game balls for the Knicks on the year. He was good. Defense, offense, on the glass. The poster he threw down, wow. Was that the dunk of the year? Obviously, Ant-Man Edwards. But that's a candidate for number 2. That was nice. Precious wants to be paid. I'll say that. And the Knicks have themselves a situation at center. They have themselves a situation, folks. Mitchell Robinson's making $16 a year on a descending deal. iHart is due to get paid the full $16, I think, in annual salary are his bird rights. And then Precious Achiuwa, I'm going to say, maybe commands about 8 or 9 a year. The Knicks can match whatever offer he gets. That's the good thing. But I've said this before. I think my prediction is the Knicks, listen, their front office doesn't exactly value their picks. And Mitchell Robinson is a pick from the previous regime. So I could easily see them moving his contract because it's very easy to move. And paying Isaiah Hartenstein and maybe even Precious Achiuwa. Let's say they invest. Let's say they give iHart $15 million a year. And let's say they pay Precious Achiuwa, let's say $8 million. And that both of those numbers might be a little conservative, but let's just say 15 to iHart 18 to Precious. That's, $23 million a year tied to center. Do you want to do that? I don't know. Maybe you let one of them guys go and you try drafting a big. I'm not sure what this class looks like. But yeah, this is the problem with like Tibbs is so good at developing big men. Like they play so well, then when they come off the books, it's they're going to want a ton of money. And there's a good chance the Knicks are only walking into next year with one of those guys because of that. A very good chance. And there should be. Because it doesn't make sense to pay that many bigs in the year 2024. But Mitch did look excellent last night. 8 points, 2 blocks. He was a plus 14, 12 minutes. He looked good, though. He was moving well, moving his feet, rotating well. He looked athletic, looked agile. Right away, he comes in the game. He's aggressive, going for a loose ball on the baseline. Boxing out well. I think he's going to look great against second unit bigs. He did last night, and I think he's only going to continue to improve. He's on a minutes limit, obviously, for now. I wonder how long. But it seems like until he's ready to be let loose, Tom Thibodeau is going to be rolling with this 3 big man rotation. But once Mitch is ready to play 24, maybe iHart gets the other 24, it's like, then what? Especially when Anunoby returns and Randle returns, Precious is probably out of the rotation and he's going to be situational. Him and Boyan. It's just tough because I don't love the Precious Achiuwa minutes when he's at the 4. Despite the elite defense and the elite offensive rebounding, it's so hard to crash the glass when Precious and a big are out there together. But I don't love that for the modern game. Offensively, it's just not the best fit. You can get away with it against Toronto, against Detroit, against the Nets. But when you get into a playoff series and you're playing teams with size, you play against a Milwaukee Bucks team, you play against a Miami Heat team who has some size up front, you play against, Cleveland. The Cavs have size. As much as we like to poke fun. Like, you can't really get away with that. I don't know if you want to play Precious at 5 against those teams. So can you play him 4 and risk offense in a playoff series? That's risky. But I thought Mitch was great. I thought he was very pivotal to the defense when he was in the game, especially in transition to offense. And the Knicks defense continues to be elite. Even without OG Anunoby, they continue to just find ways to shut teams down. Every game, they're holding them to 100, less than 100. It's awesome to watch. Now, early on in this game, they were getting bit. Toronto was doing a really good job cutting, back cuts, and the Knicks were helping off the corners, off the strong side, so they were beat on some of those open threes. But they eventually got it together, and like I said, they found a synergy. Synergy is a key word with this team. They communicate well. They have a synergy, and they played their way. They played excellent defense with just elite help coverage. Swarming the ball, closing off the gaps, protecting the paint. That's their goal. Switching, hedging, recovering, the awareness. Anything to avoid effective lane penetration. It's so heavily based, their defense, on help and recover. But they both position themselves well and close out extremely hard to be able to execute that scheme effectively. There were a couple of offensive sets that Toronto ran when they were positioned in a 1-4 flat. And the Knicks had their defensive guys positioned all around the lane with 1 foot on the line. Just ready to help on the drive, but also ready to recover and sprint back out to close out to whatever shooter they kicked it to. Tom Thibodeau's got his fucking defense down pat. So I thought the defense was good. And things just continue to be good. They continue to win games. We'll do a little bit of a standings check when we return from break here on BD4. Stay with us, episode 653. Studio 69 Productions is a podcast production agency created by Leo Rodriguez to allow content creators to market their podcast. It's an online platform that will market your podcast or any other project that you're working on. Get in touch with Leo Rodriguez from Studio 69 Productions. You can find Studio 69 Productions on Instagram at Studio69NJ. Studio 69 Productions, where dreams are heard and born. So, let's do a little bit of a standings check. The Knicks are currently the 3 seed. Currently the 3 seed because they continue to win. And last night, the 4th place Cavs lost to the Hornets. So they're now a half game behind the Knicks. And that's with the Knicks holding the tiebreaker. In 5th place, you've got the Magic. The Magic lost to the Warriors last night. So they're now a full 2 games behind the Knicks. You got the Pacers in 6th. They lost to Chicago last night. So they're 4 games behind the Knicks. And then you got your play-in seeds. Miami has the 7. They're 5 behind the Knicks. And the Sixers lost to the Clippers last night. They're 5.5 back of the Knicks at 8. And then tonight comes, there were only 2 games tonight. One of those games featured the Milwaukee Bucks, who lost to the Pelicans. So now, if you're getting real optimistic, the Bucks are only 1.5 games up on the Knicks for 2nd place. But as currently stands, the Knicks would host the Pacers in the first round. If the Knicks do find a way to steal the 2 seed, which I think is unlikely, I'm not looking at that as a must. But if they find a way to grab the 2 seed, they would host a play-in team, folks. Right now, that is the winner of the Philly-Miami series, potentially. But there are an entire 10 games left. So I don't want to dive too deep into hypotheticals here because so much is probably going to change. And the Knicks have the Spurs tomorrow night. Their final gimme during this little stretch here. And Wemby might not even play. So that's got to be a win. It's got to be a win. They are on a 3-game streak. 3? Let's see. Yeah, they're on a 3-game streak. Could very well make this 4 tomorrow. Would get them 45 wins on the year if they do. So that'd be big. Folks, I think that's it. Do we want to go more into this and talk about potential matchups? I don't know. We could do that in another show once things get more solidified. So with that said, let's get to our final break, get back, and get to our trivia. I knew this would go 40 minutes. I do it all the time.
Thanks for listening to BD4, where there is no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA, Yanks every series, Knicks every game, and MMA on occasion.
All right, let's wrap this up with our question of the day. So for this episode 653, our trivia question. Deuce McBride tied 2 other Knicks last night for the most 3-pointers made in a single quarter. Who are they? Deuce McBride tied 2 other Knicks last night for the most 3-pointers made in a single quarter. Who are they? This is obviously in Knicks history. But yeah, he had 6 in the first quarter last night. So Deuce McBride tied 2 other Knicks last night for the most 3-pointers made in a single quarter. Who are they? So let me know the answer wherever you can reach me. Folks, that's it. Episode 653 is in the books. I'm going to wrap it up from here, but if you're a Yankees fan, stay tuned, because probably in 655, that will be our first Yankees episode of the regular season, where we cover Yankees Houston. That was a fun game today, by the way. What a game that was. But as for the Knicks, that's it. Appreciate you all for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next show. Episode 653 is in the books. Catch you later. This episode was brought to you by Anchor.
Hey there! If you stayed the entire way through, we thank you immensely for it. We hope you enjoyed this podcast and that you come back for the next episode real soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, download these episodes, and share them with your friends as well. BD4 is a 5-star podcast simply because of you, and we'd like to keep it that way. Have a wonderful day. Go Yankees, and go Knicks!